Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable. This is Pete Pratt, a good friend of mine with Pure Air Restored. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you
it.
bet. Just kind of wanted to talk with you a little bit about kind of how you got started,
For sure.
where your passions lie. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Mold would be a weird passion, but my wife definitely hears way more than she'd like to about mold. No, I started just in disaster restoration. So we got married late 90s, and there was a local disaster restoration company that all of my high school buddies from a couple high schools in Orem and Mountain View guys, everybody just worked at just for fun. A lot of guys were preparing for missions, some were coming home from mission.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was just a fun job, and I just got stuck. So um, I I was going to do the college thing, ended up just kind of getting good at restoration. Started building a lot of relationships with insurance adjusters, agents. Um, Kind of started learning the networking world,
Yeah.
how relationships work. So I grew up in a huge family, so started with a big network. I've got 12 siblings. There's 13 of us in Orem.
That is a
So
big family.
yeah, Orem used to be felt like a small town, but
Yeah.
I think the year after I graduated, there Timpanogos came in, so there's three 5A high schools. Anyways, so it was a little bigger than it felt, but built a network. So that kind of came natural, and so just started running with disaster restoration. Um, Went from that fun kind of, it was pretty janky business.
Okay. And I'm
Lear-
sure they did a lot of different things, right? They didn't just do mold. They
no,
did quite a few,
it
but
was
you just kind
disaster
of found
restoration. Yeah, and they did.
your
So
passion
it's
there.
where Zero Res came from.
Oh, okay.
It was Aquacare back then,
Great.
uh, owned by a big conglomerate. I can't think of the corporate's name, but anyways, then you had your different divisions of carpet cleaning, hardwood floor finishing, the disaster part. Anyways, but yeah, so I was just in the disaster world, but then my second job in that industry was after about 5 years. I went to a really professional company. It was a Service Master. I'm sure you've heard of Service
I have.
Master, but it was so there was probably maybe 2,000 franchises or so around the world. We were in like the top five, so it was a big franchise. Um, Still in Orem, and still a lot of good buddies. But there, I started learning the whys of everything. I started learning everything I was doing wrong, so it was pretty cringy. Like, whoa, gosh, you guys do what? You wear
So,
PPE?
yeah,
Like, ooh, yeah. So I started learning really what all I'd been learning the wrong ways of doing things.
the
Anyways,
mass and the whole bit, right?
yeah. So um, was there for about 8 years, and then moved on to commercial stuff. So worked. I started up and ran a disaster restoration division of the biggest janitorial company in the state, and loved that actually. That was fun, but we tapped out of the just emergency response 24/7. I was on call for 20 years, man. So yeah, after almost 20 years, my wife was definitely she was done. Um, Got out of the emergency business, went and built an electrical outfit with a good friend of mine who's a master electrician. So that's history of where this came from. So I was happily out of disaster restoration, and then I was introduced to this newer technology for mold remediation. So that's where that's where this all started. So um, my whole career in restoration, when people talked about killing mold, that was just a cute little idea. I'm like, yeah, it's cute. We're gonna go ahead and just remove it. There's no killing it. But uh, this, like I said, was introduced to this newer technology. It's a dry fogging technology that it was developed for sterilizing operating rooms,
Okay.
medical facilities. So the developers were more in the like medical janitorial space. Um, so it was built for removing pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and mold. So again, as a huge skeptic, it took a lot for me to even listen to, to even
To
listen to
see
this
what,
introduction. I
yeah.
was introduced by somebody that I know and love and trust that's the only reason I looked at it. But um, so introduced to it by a friend of mine that was in Georgia at the time. Had his family there, owned all 9 licenses to use this technology in Georgia. Um, my brother was hiring him back here. He needed to move his family back to Utah. He just needed to move his family back to Utah, basically. But
Okay.
my brother was hiring him to be a CFO of one of his businesses in Orem, and anyway, so he was looking to get out of that, to sell that out, and so that was the introduction. Uh, Introduced to it in a hot tub one night. Spent a few hours
As
listening
you're
to.
talking.
Yeah.
So let me ask the question. You have a lot of different types of products and services that you offer around this technology. Has the technology been around for a long time and now it's just being utilized in the mold remediation kind of window, or
Correct.
is it something that was specifically developed for mold remediation?
Oh, yeah. So good question. Um, like I said, they were more in the medical janitorial space. So basically, they were seeing the issues with trying to clean these facilities in operating rooms. Um, they were seeing the issues, so they had to follow protocol strictly. The protocol didn't really line up with killing anything, so a spray and wipe method, basically off of a product that the label said it has a 10-minute dwell time to kill anything, you know.
Which
So
is what I was used to. When I went
yeah,
through school, you'd spray it down, let it sit on the surface, and then you'd come back and wipe it off later. But you had no idea if
yeah.
you covered all the surfaces correctly or not.
Well, and it's so most of them did have a 10-minute dwell time. It's going to evaporate in under 10 minutes, you know. So it's kind of impossible to use the product the way it's supposed to be used. So it doesn't have to stand behind the label, really. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
doesn't
So
have to
tell
stick
us,
with the kill rating.
so what do you do? Like if someone was to see you come in and actually perform the service, how do you set everything up, and how do you go about? Um, and you've used the word fog a couple of times.
Yeah,
How do you go about quote unquote fogging the area, and how long does it have to take place? Do they
yeah.
have to leave? If you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, so that's why they looked at fogging
Yeah.
in general to get a better dwell time. So they're trying to figure out how to get the dwell time to kill anything. So they started researching fogging in those spaces. So um, they went through every type of fogger in the industry. They're all wet fog, electrostatic fog. Um, they're basically it's basically an application of whatever antimicrobial, whatever biocide that you're trying to use. Um, but all the wet fogging, it was just ruining everything, you know. So
Oh,
you can't just
because
you
of the
can't put
prolonged
any
moisture on the
chemical through
surfaces.
a fog. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot. Yeah. So just dousing equipment and stuff, it doesn't work, you know.
So what you're saying is when you go in, you're able to do this and treat the area for mold without affecting anything else. The furniture, the
Yeah.
fabrics, the paints, those are all good.
So going through that research and finding all the issues with fogging, they developed their own dry fogger. So uh, the developers are Pure Maintenance. They're up in Layton actually, but
Okay.
now they've got locations around the world. There's about 200 plus locations that can use the technology. But so they developed a dry fog. So you put your hand over the fog heads, just looks like a fine mist coming out, but it's dry.
Can you feel it
Um,
a little
yeah,
bit?
it's
Yeah.
pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's high pressure. So we run it off of compressed air. Our system, we use 3 big air compressors
Hmm.
to run the
Okay.
one machine with 2 fog heads. So um, there's a moisture side and an air side. Those 2 tubes come together in a fog head to create the perfect mist. Basically,
Okay. All
it's a
right.
dry fog, so it is dry. So we'll fill up an area till you can't see in front of your face. So it raises the vapor pressure, it pressurizes the area, and penetrates
So
everything.
you'll seal the area off, pump this in.
Hmm.
How long does it have to sit for
And then it dwells for
exposure time?
45 minutes.
45
Yeah.
minutes.
So that is the standard. That's the system. So you fill up an area.
Yeah.
Again, there's some indicator strips that we can use. I think I used them in the first week
Oh,
of
okay.
doing this, and then just went away with it because you get used to
You get a
how
you get a
foggy it needs
hang.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then let it dwell for 45 minutes. So all the lab studies that we do, we only get 8 minutes to kill. So they'll take a high volume sample of what it was, Stachybotrys or whatever mold or pathogen or whatever we're trying to kill. They'll package it in a bunch of they'll wrap it in a bunch of layers of linen of sort, and then kind of try to replicate the home. So put it up on a 30-foot shelf in a cabinet,
Hmm.
things like that. And then again, we get 8 minutes to kill. Um, we've been perfect across the board every time, so
That's
we can
great.
kill in under 8 minutes.
Huh.
Homes are not uh, a controlled environment like that.
They're not
Uh,
airtight like that.
that's what I
Yeah.
have to tell people. This was developed for sterilizing operating rooms. So sterilizing a sterile, clean room.
Hmm.
Our homes aren't that. So we can't call it sterilizing the home. There's yeah, you can't make claims on verbiage. It's
That makes sense.
sterilize,
That makes sense.
disinfect, sanitize. So industry wide, this would be called the sanitization treatment. So
Okay.
that is.
And so are there any pre-treatments that have to be done, or are there repeat treatments that have to be done?
No.
Okay, so we're looking at a 1-day
Yeah,
process.
and that's what's been awesome for
Yeah.
realtors. I mean, obviously, this is life changing for sick people, for
Yeah.
for people that are struggling, sensitized people. It's a game changer for them to be able to kill everything in the home. For realtors, it's nice when you have a home inspection that pops elevated mold levels,
Hmm.
um, but there's nothing wet, there's no source, there's nothing to remove
Yeah.
physically. So in traditional remediation, your options are to start just digging. you know,
Well, yeah, my
you gotta
my
find
daughter
where it
bought a
might be.
home, and she started to kind of have, she's like, it smells like mold. And they did a little more investigation, and
Mm.
they found that downstairs in the basement, underneath the cold storage, in a certain area of that cold storage, they had mold. And it,
So they
it's a
did
big,
find
it's a
it.
big
That's a
concern.
plus.
They did find it,
Yeah,
but I didn't find you in time, so
yeah,
they treated it the best they could. But I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, hope that doesn't come back.
yeah. There's definitely limitations in traditional remediation. So traditional remediation is just the process of removing invisible mold. Basically, it's really hard to capture it on a spore level, capture all the spores, especially in a home. So traditionally, you run into a spot of mold, a visible
Yeah.
spot of visible mold. You contain it. You set up a containment barrier, and that's your area. So looking back now, it's kind of silly to think back the effectiveness of that. Like once you can see mold, it's millions of spores per square inch to be able to colonize and be
Hmm.
visible. Um, so thinking back, you set up containment and then calling all mold spores, please come gather in
Yeah.
my containment so I can clean you up. It's a little tricky.
Well, and that takes me back to my high school biology days, where they're like, okay, well, you can kill the mold, but the spores are a whole different thing.
Yeah, the spores and
And
mycotoxins
yeah,
and all of the part that's making people
so
sick.
one treatment might be treating one, and visually you think, oh, smells better, looks better, we're good, and you don't
So
realize.
yeah,
So that's one of the advantages of the fogging is
yeah.
it
So
gets
you're
everywhere.
Yeah, and your question was, is there any
Yeah.
pre work retreats, any of that? No, it is. It's a 1 day process, depending on the square footage. Bigger areas. I've done some commercial jobs. We've done a school. Done a 60,000 square foot horse arena.
Hmm.
We still get it done in a day. We just have to bring in loads of equipment to
Okay.
get it done. So we always try to get it done in a day,
Okay.
but sometimes it just takes a ton of equipment. So
Now, do
we
you
just,
offer do you offer like different levels of service, or is it pretty much done by per square foot, or it's a single family home treatment? We'll treat the whole home. Tell me a little bit about how that works,
yeah,
because a commercial business is vastly different from a single family home, I'm imagining.
treatment's the same though,
Oh, okay. It's
basically.
just square footage then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying. the bigger it is, we don't just break it up in days. It's always done in sections because you're just doing an area at a time, you
Hmm.
know. So when guys get overwhelmed at a sizable project, I just say, how do you eat an elephant analogy? It's
Okay.
one bite at a time. It's one room at a time. That's all we're worried about is that room we're fogging. Um, the other things we do in a home that maybe we don't do in a horse arena
Okay.
or something is in a home we take care of all the areas where uh, you normally have mold trying to grow, your window tracks, your drains, the HVAC system. Um, so that's just a standard part of our treatment. Is we start a treatment by focusing on the HVAC system through all the air returns and the main trunk line for the first hour or so of treatment in a standard home, and then we just move room to room through the whole home, fogging the fogging an area at a time.
Hmm.
An area with a window track, we're gonna clean it and treat it. An area with a drain, we're gonna clean and treat the drain, the overflows, um, and they get a lot of crap in there. There's
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of buildup, so that's always effective. And then
Okay.
we just move through the whole home, and
Now, do you ever have to go outside the home? You mentioned air ducts, and then of course you have your HVAC system, and sometimes you have air intakes from the outside. Do you
hmm
ever have to go outside and isolate, say, maybe the AC unit and treat that as well? Because that's the
no, I still rely on partners a lot of the time, when when it's post construction or um, they've done heavier remediation,
hmm.
removed a bunch of stuff. We still just use a duct cleaning company first. I
Okay,
refer out a couple to clean all that out and take care of that first, so we have good surfaces
to
for.
work with. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when people call you and request your services, are there certain things that usually key them off? Like, hey, I might have mold. Is it that they're seeing it or they're smelling it, they're seeing it? What are some of the things that people can encounter to where
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I may have mold in the home?
Good question. That is always my question when people call. So when people call and just want mold testing, I say, what prompted this? Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen something suspicious? Something that looks moldy? Have you had a leak of some kind, or do you have symptoms?
Yeah. What
Are
kind
you
of health
experiencing
issues
something? Yeah.
usually happen with people that
Exactly.
have exposure to mold?
Yeah. A lot of our work is referred by the naturopathic doctors.
Oh, okay, great.
So those they've tested and found it in people's system. Yeah, so they're testing for mold toxicity through blood, urine, or hair. When it shows up in their system, uh, that's an easy one. Then they're just sending them
Yeah.
they've been exposed somewhere. They send them to me to go find it and treat it. So as part of their treatment, their physical treatment, they're trying to detox or do whatever treatments they're trying to do for the condition. We're talking a lot of autoimmune diseases, sensitized people. Um, so we're just part of that treatment. So the doctors will tell them you've got to get out of the source. So the
Yeah, you either
exposure.
have to move yourself out of the
Uh huh.
environment, or you have to remove the mold from the environment you're in.
But those are the steps of the process.
Yeah.
Get you out of the source, which is us just going treating the home, and then get the source out of you. So
So
they still
talk a
have to
little bit
do
about the
detox.
testing that you do. How do you do that around the home?
There's a lot of different types, and I'll usually walk people through the pros and cons of the different types of testing and costs associated with them. Um, Kind of the industry standard. Like if you call any IEP, so an IEP is an indoor environmental professional, those would come by way of a home inspector or an environmental hygienist, us. A lot of mold remediators do their own testing, but um, kind of the industry standard is air testing. So air quality testing needs to be done to the standard,
Okay.
So uh, we use a pump that pulls air through a little sticky disc, basically.
Okay.
It's an air cassette. Um, it captures everything in the air from all the mold spores. So a report will list out all the different types of mold and give you spore counts. It also pulls in insect parts and uh, it tell you just the different levels of particulate of whatever
Everything
kind.
else floating in the
Human
air.
skin, animal skin, So it gets kind of grosses people out. But
Yeah.
so that's air testing. We do it up on a tripod, so it's supposed to be picking up what you're breathing.
And is it on for just a short period of time, or does it kind of
5 minutes.
sit there for? Okay.
Yeah, so the pump has to be set exactly. That we've got to calibrate your pump every time. So it pulls in 15 liters of air for 5 minutes. So most tests are 75 liters of air through that. So that's air testing. Pros and cons. Pros are it's pretty inexpensive. Again, we put it up on a tripod, so it's supposed to be picking up what we're breathing, what might be making us sick. Um, it gives you a good idea of your
Hmm.
overall air quality. Cons are they're pretty inconsistent still. So you
Okay.
can do 3 back-to-back-to-back air tests in an area. They're all a little bit different. So I'll never have the confidence in air testing to rule out a house as a possible source that's making you sick.
Okay.
So people ask me all the time to rule out the house as a possible source that's making them sick. I'm not confident doing that with just air testing.
So is there another type of test that's more
Yeah.
reliable but definitely more expensive and takes more
Yep.
time? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Uh, Doctors will often order their own ERMI test, ERMI, ERMI or HERTSMI. They're just both are different in acronyms, but um, that's just a process of gathering dust for DNA uh, testing. So there's pros and cons of that too. Yeah. So one, it's a lot more expensive, and usually we're called in after they've already got one of those failed ERMI tests. So so we don't do a lot of that testing. We're usually coming in after that, after they've already had that test. It's
So,
easy enough for a customer to order one of those in and just do the dust gathering dust off the top of your fridge and the ceiling fans, wherever dust gathers. You'll vacuum different areas of carpet and rugs and things. So
okay.
dust. So pros and cons of that. Pros are you're getting a wide range of the home. Um, it is giving you a DNA test of whatever's ever been there, basically. One of the biggest cons are post treatment, after we go in and treat. That's not an effective test anymore. So that's really confusing to people. They want a pre-ERMI test and they want a
Okay.
post-ERMI test, and it doesn't work that way. Our treatment doesn't change the DNA, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it denatures the spore, oxidizes it, breaks it apart, uh, renders it non-viable, so it can't do anything anymore. But it doesn't change the DNA, so it doesn't really change that ERMI test much. So that's a tricky part of it.
Yeah.
So post remediation and treatment, we've got to lean more on viability testing. So that's another type of testing,
Yeah.
and that comes by way of there's air viability testing, um, or surface testing. So you can take a swab of something. So this has probably been the biggest testimony builder for me
Okay.
of the effectiveness of the treatment is just seeing really thick black Stachybotrys, um, that's like one of the most toxic molds on walls. And post treatment, I'll just send a bulk sample of that to the lab for viability testing. So once again, if they just look at that, it's Stachybotrys. Like it's the same.
Yeah.
If they just look at it under a microscope, that is what it is. When they do viability testing after we treat, it'll just show debris. They won't classify it as a fungus
Something
or
particular. Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Because the
it's
treatment's been
non-viable.
effective.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so
Huh.
that's been cool
Okay.
to see those all the time. So we can take a surface test with a swab or
Okay.
a bulk sample or whatever for viability testing.
Do you ever combine tests just to kind of get a
For
range?
sure.
I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to do one of these, and we'll put them all together and see if we can't get a picture
Yeah.
of what's going on.
Most of the time when doctors are sending people to me, I'll still lean on air testing. We'll
Okay.
do air quality testing, but if there's anything suspect, so I hesitate to just point at things and say that's mold, that's mold, that's mold.
Okay.
But we call them mold suspect until we have it analyzed. You know?
Okay.
So If there's something suspect, then we can take a swab or a sticky tape test of it for them to analyze to tell us what it is. So this
Okay.
looks like mold. Tell us what it is exactly, and the lab report will list out exactly what it is
What it is.
and to the levels. Yeah. So for
Okay.
sick people, for sensitized, we're just looking for a possible source that could be making them sick. So those are the things we're looking for. So,
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, then I just kind of wanted to. So if you were having a consultation with someone
mhm.
and they suspected that there was mold in the home, what would you recommend as first steps? And then to basically say, this is how we're going to approach it. This is how we're going to do it, and we'll get you all taken care of, just so that our
Yeah,
listeners can kind of be familiar with the process.
sure. I always start with a visual inspection. Um, I've got decades of water water related, disaster
The
restoration
water damage.
industry, so I know
Yes.
what to
Yeah.
look for. So I'll use a combination of thermal imaging cameras, looking for, and people confuse that with. They always ask it, is that wet? Looking through our thermal imaging cameras, it doesn't show wet dry. It shows temperature differential. So it leaves indicators,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
temperature differential, something's happening here. We can look further with moisture meters and things. So
Okay.
yeah, that's the process. So we'll start with a visual inspection. Look at all the normal spots around plumbing areas, all the ceiling, the attic, the um, for roof leaks.
Are cold storages usually a suspect spot?
Sure.
Are they?
E-
Okay.
Especially it kind of stinks so when you see framing on the ceiling in a cold storage, that's concrete form. Like it's not meant to stay there usually.
Yeah.
Um, so that should have been removed after the concrete cured. So anytime I've removed those, so those have been a big source of mold. Anytime I've removed them, the backside is just covered. So it
Oh,
stays wet for way too long.
quite a long time.
And then when people have um, a porch that leaks, they're pressure washing their porch, it leaks right into that wood, and it just covers the backside of that with mold. So that you can find that in air testing pretty easy when you air test
When you
that
do it.
area. But
So,
yeah,
so
it's
you'll
tricky.
use their thermal cameras. You'll go in, and then
Moisture
time
meters.
wise, you'll set something up for like a couple of days in the future, so they can plan on being out of the house. Or
For treatment,
yes.
yeah, it's a 1 day process. I usually just ask them what the easiest days are for you to be out.
Okay.
It's pretty easy during the school year because everybody leaves in the morning. Parents go to
Huh.
work, kids go to school. We can usually just start around
Sure, you
8.
don't want to say dad goes to work, mom goes to the spa, and the kids go to
True.
school.
Yeah.
That's a we
No,
can
we don't
treat.
want
Yeah.
to say. Most of the time,
Yeah.
mom's going to work
Mom
too
would be
these
like, "Yeah,
days,
we need
man.
a mold treatment." I didn't understand we had mold. Oh,
For
yes, we
sure.
do.
We'll talk
So,
about that too because yeah, no couple has equal interest in this. There's always one person that may be feeling symptoms. The other one doesn't feel anything and is
yeah,
skeptical of what's
of
happening.
what's going on,
Yeah,
and that's common.
exactly.
Sometimes things.
Very common.
I mean, I'm always the one that gets sick. My wife always somehow skirts
Really?
it.
Oh,
I don't know how, but she does.
nice.
So,
That's
but
every couple. So,
yeah, that pretty much
yeah,
is. Well, thanks so much for joining us
for
today.
sure,
This
man.
has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming out and talking with
Thanks
us
so much, man.
and letting us kind of know what's up. So, thanks again.
Appreciate it, brother.
Okay, thanks.